Now we move to our first data structure. Good. So a list. So a list is an ordered data structure, and also it's mutable, right? Meaning it can be changed. The lists are very popular. It comes with Python. It comes with a built-in Python modulo. It's powerful, it's versatile, and it's simple to use. But the problem with lists is that it takes a lot of memory. Right now, you shouldn't worry about the memory part of it. It's something that you will learn when you advance to, like, when you move to advanced data structures and algorithms. That's where the whole memory thing comes into play. Now with lists, you realize that the items, they are written between the square brackets, right? Whenever you see an item is written between the square brackets like this, it's a list. So you have the name, the variable name, list name. Then you have the item 6, which is an integer. You have rice, which is a string. You have false, which is a boolean. You have 8.5, which is a float, and then you have 7, which is an int, right? So it can contain different data types. And each item or element is separated by a comma, right? We'll be going more into details about that. And when do we use a list? When the order. So we use it when the order is important, and when you want to change when you want to keep your elements dynamic, you want to keep changing, you want to keep adding, you want to keep removing. Well, if you are planning on doing that, then the list is the data structure for you. Okay, so we'll be moving to the practical side, and I will learn more about the methods that come with lists. So open your IDE and let's start coding. First, you have to open your IDE. So I'll be using VS Code for this part of the lesson. You can open, if you have PyCharm, you can use it. You can use any IDE that you have. Good. So you create a folder. I have created a folder called data structures in Python, and then I've created a file called list.py, right? So we'll create a file for each data structure type that we'll be dealing with. So this for lists, the other for tuple, for set, and then for dictionary. Okay. So in order to instantiate your list, you use the square brackets to instantiate your list. You can create a list of integers. You have 1, 2, 3. You can create a list of strings. You have 1, 2, 3 strings. With the strings have the quotation marks around them. You can create a list of booleans, true and false, and you can create a list of all the data types. So you have a string, you have a boolean, and then you have a float. Next, we'll be dealing with list indexing. If you remember, we said indexing is a way of referring to items in ordered or sequence data structures, right? And then if you remember, we said list is a sequence, ordered or sequence data structure, and then tuple is also another ordered or sequence data structure. So right now we have a list named fruits, right? And then we have a bunch of fruits: apple, pear, banana, and whatnot, right? And then we want to pick out one of the fruits. So let's say we want to pick out orange. Since orange is the first in the list, right? Its index is 0. If you remember, we said the index always begins with 0. So since orange is the first in the list, its index is 0. So you can type this fruits in order to call the index fruit, and then you have the square brackets, and then you put a 0. The output, if you run it, you get orange as your output, right? If you run 1, that's the second in the list. Pear will be the apple will be the output. If you run 2, you get pear. 3, you get apple again, because apple is here, right? You have this apple, and then you have that apple. Okay. The next, you have banana. And one neat thing about lists or about the indexing is that you can use negative numbers, right? Right now we have -1. So whenever we use a negative number, we are telling Python that, or even any programming language, that please start from the back, right? So we want fruit index -1. So we are starting from the back, which is banana. So index -5 will be, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in a way, -5 is orange. Okay, -2 is apple, -3 pear, -4 is also apple. Okay, good. So this is how you index to retrieve items in the list that you are interested in. Now, right now, you might not see why this is necessary, but when you start applying all the things that you will be learning throughout this session, you realize that when you apply all of them, they are very, very powerful. When applied correctly and properly, they are very powerful. You can use them to do a lot of interesting projects. Okay, so the next thing we'll be talking about is nested indexing. As you know, nested indexing is one cool thing about lists is that a list can be an item of a list, right? So we have this list, and then we have another list in that list, right? We can nest it. We can also put another list in this list and another list in that list, right? Good. And so if you go into data science, you realize that this is how we get matrices. If you are working with matrices, this is how you do it. You next list inside lists to get the two to three dimensional matrices and then all that cool stuff, right? So if we want to call this apple, right, you have to understand that in this list, this is index 0 and then this is index 1, right? So when we call fruit index 1, the result is this. We get this as a result, okay? But we want this. We want the apple in that list. So what would we do? The apple is also index 0 in that list. So we say index 1, that gives us this, and then index 0 inside the index 1, that gives us the apple. So index 1, then will give us the orange. Okay. So that's it for indexing in Python. The next thing we'll be learning is slicing in Python, right? So what do we mean by slicing? Sometimes you just don't want one item in the list. Sometimes you want more than one item in the list. How do you go about doing that? Okay. Sometimes you want this and this. Sometimes you want this and that. So that's where slicing comes into play. Okay. That's where slicing comes into play. So if we want the beginning and the end, we have the brackets and then we have the column, right? So the first part of the slice is where you should start, and then the second part is where you should end. Okay, so right now, if we haven't stated the first part, we've left the first part empty, and then we've also left the second part empty. What Python does is that it prints every single element in the list. Okay, so here we are saying that start from index 2 and end at index 5, right? So what it's going to do is that which one is index 2? We know here is 0, 1, 2. So it's going to start from the pair, and then pair, so we have 2, 3, and then 4. You have to understand that the number here is exclusive. That means it doesn't add the fifth part, right? It will omit the fifth part. The reason why it does that is that if you say from 2 to 3, you want 3 elements. So you just subtract 2 from 3, and then you realize that if you have pair and then you are going counting 3 times, you go 1, 2, 3, right? So you have your pear, which is index 2, you have your grape index 3, and then banana index 4, right? The fifth one is excluded from it because there is no fifth element in this list. Okay. Even if they were, it will be ignored. Okay. So you have your pear, you have your grape, and you have your banana. So that will be the output, right? So you have this. It's saying that we've left the first part empty, and then we are moving from the second. With the second part, the ending, we say start from the bottom, right? Start from the bottom. So what it's going to do is that it's going to start from the bottom. So here is 1, here is 2, right? Since here is 2, it's going to skip the 2 and come here, right? It's going to skip the 2 and come. So you have pear, you have orange, apple, sorry, and then you have orange, right? You have pear, you have apple, you have orange. So that's it for this one. In this one, we are saying that start from the beginning and then move until you get to item at index 1, right? So you have 0 and then you have 1, because you remember the 2 here is excluded, right? It excludes the 2. So if it excludes the 2, then the number before the 2 is 1. So that's why we have to forget about the 2. So you have orange and then you have the apple, right? And then here we say start at index 2. The first part is always inclusive. The second part is exclusive. So you say start at index 2 until the end, right? Start at index 2 or to the end. So we have 0, 1 from pear, and then we take everything to banana. We start at index 2 to the end. So we take from pear to banana. Okay. The next part is if the first part is where it should begin, right? Slice where you're asking with a slice, the first argument is telling you where should it begin. The next one is telling you where should it end, and then the next argument is telling you that what are the steps, the number of steps I should take, right? So here we are saying that start from the beginning and at the end, but move 2 times, right? Take 2 steps each. So when we start from orange, so 1, we'll skip apple, right? So 2 steps. We'll skip apple to pear, right? And then from pear, we'll skip grapes to banana, right? Because we are telling, usually this one, if you don't put the third argument, then it becomes 1. The default is 1. Meaning move one time, move 1 times, okay? So move every 1 step. That is why for this ones, we did there was no jumping, right? We moved from this to this to that. But here, because we have given the argument 2, so when we take orange, say we start at the beginning, orange, then we move. Instead of going to the apple, we are saying that jump twice. So jump from 1 and we go to pear, which is the second item, and then we'll jump from grapes to banana. Okay. So here, what is saying is, whenever you see something like this, you say start from the reverse. Okay. When you see something like this, start from the reverse. So instead of like jumping 1 time forward, we are moving backwards, right? Whenever you see the negative, we start counting from backwards, right? Then you have the banana, you have the grape. So if here was 2, if instead of 2 it was instead of -1, if it was -2, we'll begin at the banana, because here we haven't given where to stop and where to start, right? So we'll begin at the banana and then would have jumped the grapes to pear and then jump the apple to orange. But since we've given -1, we'll go from pear, go for grape, we'll go for pear, we'll go for apple, and then you go for orange. Okay. So whenever you see -1, whenever you see a negative number, you have to start from the back, right? Instead of moving forward, you have to move backwards. The next one we'll learn is how to add elements to the list after it has been created. Okay. Right now, we want to change orange to some other fruit. Okay, how do we do that? So what we do is that we use the index to call orange, right? We learned at indexing that index always begins at 0, right? So if you want to call orange, we'll say fruit index 0, which is orange, and then we are equating it, we are assigning it a new name. Okay, so the assign symbol, so we are assigning it a new name, berries. So when we print fruit, you realize the output oranges has been changed to berries. Okay, good. So here we don't want to change just one, we want to change multiple elements in the list. Okay, how do we do that? So first we use the slice operator, which we learned. We use the slice operator, which we just learned, to call multiple fruits that we are interested in, right? So in this operator, we are saying that begin at 1, right? So with this one, we are telling Python to begin at element 1 and then end at element 3, not 4, 3, right? So even though we've written 4 here, the 4 is exclusive. We don't add it to it. So we use 3, right? So we start here, index 1, index 2, index 3. So we pick apple, pear, and then grapes, right? And then we are changing it. We are changing the list of these 3 fruits into a different fruit. So we've made it this, that, and then this, okay? And then when we print out our new fruits, you'll realize that they have been changed. The apple, pear, and grapes has been changed to the ones we just inserted. Okay, lists come with its own method. One of such important methods is append, right? You can't always be using this one, right? We can't always be doing this. Sometimes it isn't feasible to be doing this, so we use the append. Append is very easy, right? So with the append method, what we are telling Python is that append a new element into our list. Okay, so now we have this list: orange, apple, pear, grapes, and banana. And then we want to add. We don't want to change. We are not trying to change the fruits that we already have in the list. We want to add a new fruit to the list of fruits. So how do we do it? We use append. Say fruits dot append. Then we add a new fruit, which is lime, store it. And when we print out our fruit, we realize that lime has been added to the end of the list, right? Append always adds element to the end of the list. Okay, good. So the next thing we'll be learning is concatenation. Concatenation means you are adding two lists, right? So to concatenate, we are adding. Okay, so we have a fruit, we have the list of fruits, which is this, right? And then we are adding another list of fruit to it. So we can add this, we can add another fruit, mango, and mango. You realize that the output of this, when you click the print, when you try to print the new list, you realize that mango will be added, strawberries and mango will be added. So let me go here and just copy this. I'll just insert it here. Oranges, strawberries and mango will be added to our new list. So we have concatenated, right? Instead of doing addition, remove the addition and put multiplication and see the result that you get. Okay, since we've learned how to add a list, it makes sense that we'll be learning how to delete items from a list. Okay, so how do we delete items from a list? All we have to do is, it's very simple. Just add del, then we call our first fruit. So here we are calling fruit index 1, which is orange. So when you print out fruit, you realize that orange will not be part of it, right? Orange will not be part of it. You just get apple, pear, grapes, and banana. You can print it out and check for yourself. Okay. When it comes to the second one, which is if we can delete more than one items in the fruit, right? Just like how we can add more than one items in the fruit, we can delete more than one items in the fruit. So we use our slice operator, right? We say one, begin from index 1, which is apple, right? The second index, and then we move to index 5, right? And then you can, and if you want to delete the list itself, you can just type dal fruits. So this removes the entire list. Okay, so if this is how to delete items in the list. One very cool feature that has been added to Python is what we call list comprehension, which is really, really cool, right? So let's take this as an example, right? So here what it says is that we always start reading from our right to our left, okay? So we say for x in range 10. So what range does is that range gives us the numbers from 0 to 10, right? So we are saying for x, for every item in the list 0 to 10, in the range 0 to 10, right? So every item in the range 0 to 10, we are multiplying that value by 2, and then we are putting them in the list. Okay, so the output, you have 0 times 2, which is 0, 1 times 2, which is 1, 2 times 2, which is what? 4, 3 times 2, sorry, this is not times, this is raised to the power 2, right? X raised to the power 2. When you see 2 of the this symbol, it is raised to the power. Okay, so 3 raised to the power 2, 9, and so on and so forth, right? And say just like the slice, the last value is exclusive, right? We don't add it to it. So we go from 0, it starts from 0 and then ends at 9, even though it says 10 here. We start from 0 and it ends at 9. So that's why you realize that the 9 times 9 is 81, right? Instead of like seeing 10 times 10, which is 100, right? Okay, so that will be it for less comprehension. Okay, so the next 10 we'll be doing is membership, right? Membership. This is what we call membership. Okay, so if you remember, we talked about in and not in the sequence version of our the presentation part of this lesson, right? In the presentation part of this lesson, we talked about in and not in, right? So we have a list with the name fruits, right? With a list of fruits in it as its items. Then we want to check if orange is in fruits. The cool thing about Python is that it sounds like English, right? So yeah, this one we're asking is orange in fruit. So usually you'll see it with an if statement, right? So sometimes you see it like this. So if orange is fruit, and then if it's in fruit, then you do something, right? Then be like do something, right? Do something, right? Uh, do something, right? So usually that's how you be saying it. So if it's true, then do something. So if orange isn't fruit, then you see the output to be true. If orange is in fruit, the output will be true. So if it's not in fruit, the output will be false, right? So here we are saying that orange not in fruit. So we are saying that orange is not in fruit, which orange is in fruit, so it will be false, right? Orange is in fruit, so it will be false. Okay, so usually you'll be seeing them with the if statements, if else if statements. That'll be it for membership in Python. And the last thing we'll be doing here will be looking at other methods that comes with lists, right? We talked about append, right, which adds elements to the end of the list. There is clear. If you want to clear the items, the del deletes the list itself, right? But if you don't want to delete the list, but you want to just delete the items in the list, all the items in the list, use clear. Clear does that. Copy, as the name implies, it copies the list, right? Counts the list, items in the list. Okay, so you have extend, you have index, you have insert, you have pop. So pop removes an item from the list. It removes from the end of the list. Then we have removes. Remove the first item in the list. So pop removes the last item in the list. Or you can specify a position. If you don't specify a position, it will remove the last item in the list. So you have reverse, which, as the name implies, reverse the order of the list. And then we have sort, which sorts the list, right? So if you remember, we used a slice version to reverse the list. So what we did was, so you have fruits, you have fruits list, and then we did something like start from the beginning and then the end, and then do -1, -1, right? So this is the same as this. When you call this method, right? When you call fruits dot reverse, right? When you call fruit dot reverse, it's the same as running this code, right? This reverses the list, and then this does the same thing. Okay, so I'll urge you all to go out and then to learn more about lists when it comes to Python. They are very cool, and then play with examples until you become familiar with them, right? Until they become like second nature to you. Okay, so that will be it for the list. So we'll be going back to the PowerPoint to talk about tuples. Okay,